Hello and welcome to United View and welcome to the Red Room, your weekly dosage of topics and news regarding Manchester United. I'm here today with my host as per usual. Mina, how have you been today?
Good. Rainy day, but
yeah, it has
been a rainy day. It is what it is, man.
Yeah, we've got a lot of topics today. Obviously, the last episode, I think it was episode 6, this is 7 now. We've got the recap for the last 2 weeks of games, the last week, of games, the Brentford and Everton game, and the coming week, of course, Seville twice, in the weeks ahead, and of course Nottingham Forest this Sunday, and obviously chat about the previous games, the midfield, the forward line questions for the rest of the show today. But we're going to start with the comments of the day.
Yeah. So guys, what we're going to do is every week we're going to pick out one comment from the comment section, and we're just going to plug it. It can be as, I won't say as reckless as you want, but what a comment that stands out to us. And for last week's episode, there was a comment that stood out to me. It was from Joel Matthew. So Joel Matthew, big up yourself. And it said, big up Mina and Marcel, the M&M crew. That's a serious name. One, yeah. That's a serious name. The M&M crew is growing week by week. I'm loving the coverage. Keep up the great work. Sending positive vibes from San Diego, California.
Wow.
Big up to everyone that's watching from San Diego, California and everywhere in the world. So if you want your comment to be read out, guys, just drop a comment in below. But guys, keep it civil. Keep it civil.
There's been some wild ones, obviously.
Keep it civil. But we're just going to go on and start with Brentford and Everton, because going into the game, you and I weren't, I think I was optimistic, but you weren't as optimistic as I was. And you said you actually didn't think we'd keep a clean sheet 2 games in a row. I said we'd win the Everton game 2-0 or 3-0.
Yeah.
We won it 2-0. Brentford, we just about beat them 1-0. What was your take on both fixtures, or whichever game stood out to you?
Really interesting. I was shocked, like you said. I mean, especially the Everton game. I thought Sean Dyche, the way he sets up his Everton sides, it was going to be a horrible game. And it was kind of, I thought it was going to be an open game of football for the Brentford game originally. Yeah. Thomas Frank, a kind of player, a manager that likes to play kind of total open football. And then obviously Sean Dyche, it was completely the opposite, very open, lots of opportunities to score goals against Everton on the Saturday. And I don't know, it was quite weird. It could have been 6 or 7-0. It should have been 6 or 7-0 in that first half of games. And I remember saying you're very right. And in the last episode, it was more of a thing of, that's the game that I'm worried about. Will we be able to get points from that game? The Brentford game, I was a little bit more confident because it would have been open football. But that turned out to be one of the more, nervy affairs. I mean, Rashford goal, Sabitzer assist, was the deciding factor in that game. And obviously for the Everton game, unfortunately, you get an injured Marcus Rashford. So, I come out of the 2 weeks, 2 wins, very important now because, the weeks coming now, it's Europa League and a Premier League game in there. But very, very happy for the 6 points.
Let's talk about the Everton game, because that's very much fresh in my mind, because I watched the game. We did the match view, myself, Owen and KG. But then I watched, again, extended highlights on the weekend, right? I genuinely believe we should have won that game like 6-0 in the first half. Forget the second half. I feel like in the first half, first 20 minutes, it literally should have been 3-0 up. Wan-Bissaka should have had his goal.
Open goal, yeah.
Anthony could have had a hat-trick. Rashford could have had a hat-trick. Do you think that we were just really good, or do you think Everton were just poor defensively?
Really good question, because, like I said, Sean Dyche, the way he sets up his team, I thought would be like a really boring game, where they just have all 11 players behind the ball, not really trying to play football. But I think like the line that they set up with was quite high. And because of that, it just kind of played into our hands. Yeah. We loved the kind of transitions, the long balls over the top. We saw a lot of players, Rashford breaking through lines, Anthony getting chances, one-on-ones through the lines. So it was really interesting to see where, Man United were playing, a fluid, it was kind of like back in the day. We just want to get the ball to the goal as quickly as possible. And every single player was playing in a position where it really suited their strengths in that game. So just happy to see that, that was the kind of football that we was trying to play that game. Shocked that we didn't score as much more, but we know that that's our problem, the forward line and getting an out-and-out goal scorer.
I think we created like 21 shots on goal in the first half, which is what we normally create in the entire game. Okay. So I want to talk about Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Harry Maguire, because for the places that he gets criticism, I think it's only fair to give him credit for when he has a good game. And I do think Everton game, he had a good performance. Albeit, I can't remember the striker's name, but he was pants.
Yeah.
Everton striker was just pants, light-skinned
Number
guy.
50, yeah, number 50,
Number
Sims.
50. Sims. People in the chat that on the match view were saying that he looks like Paul George, the NBA player. But he was poor. But I think one thing that, like, I want to give Harry Maguire his praise. I really want to give him his praise when he deserves it.
Mm.
But then he comes out again and makes comments. Yeah, he comes out and does interviews, whatever, and says, you know, we haven't lost X number of games since I've been playing.
Yeah.
And, you know, we've had clean sheets X number of games that I've been involved in. And I really want to, I want to give you your credit, but you make it very difficult for me to give you your credit. So please just turn it down a little bit, because I swear, if he didn't do, I saw these comments today in an interview that he did, basically talking about his run of games with Manchester United lately, and you know how good he's been performing. And it was again just the I, me, captain, leader, all of that stuff, and it made it difficult for me to want to praise him for the Everton game. When he does start, and I think we've seen a slight change in terms of he's not as frustrating as he used to be on the ball. And one thing I like about Erik ten Hag, again, good man management, is that he always praises him for this stuff, his ability to get the ball forward. He will never be like, oh, he's not front-footed, he's not this, he's slow and X, Y, Z. I don't think he had an amazing game, but I think defensively our centre-backs were good.
Yes.
And that's what you ask for. When you call upon a player from the bench, you want them to have a good game. For me, one person that stood out for me in the Everton game was Malacia. Malacia stood out to me for so many reasons. He's not like Luke Shaw, where he is as attacking minded as Luke Shaw is. Luke Shaw has one of the best first touches in the team. His ability to control the ball when it's switched over to him, one touch, bam. His ability to put in a good ball, make those overlapping runs, get into the box. He does it well. Yeah. He does it great. Yeah. Malacia doesn't do it as well, but he does it good. Yeah. And I think he's got, I always say in it, he got that dog. He got that dog in him. So I was really impressed with Malacia's performance. But talking about fullbacks, and I've seen this discussion everywhere, Jeremy Frimpong, highly linked to him right now. If we get Frimpong, I think it's 40 million, his price tag. Who would you want as the backup option? Dalot or Wan-Bissaka?
Oh, well, we saw Wamby's performance again, you know, speaking about the Everton game and keeping it regarding that kind of fixture. I think Wamby played brilliant. You know, he's really, Ten Hag's improved a lot of players. Scott McTominay had a good game, and at one point at the beginning of the season, Scott was keeping Casemiro out of the team. You know, he was playing that good, and was earning the right to have his position. I think Wan-Bissaka looks like one of those players that could, you know, come on leaps and bounds more if you have him for a couple more seasons. And his ability defensively, for me, is something that can't be replicated by much fullbacks in the world right now. You know, in terms of 1v1, slide tackling, chasing down, you know, once the defenders try to bypass you, making those little mini recovery runs back, getting into your defensive shape. I think he's the best at it. It's just that ball over the top, you know, when crosses coming in, you know, from them angles that the likes of Antony will make in that kind of right wing side. Just the ball over the top that he needs to be wary of. I think last season, you know, in the Champions League against Atletico, I believe, or he, you know, had a little issue with that, and in other games he's had issue with it. I would still take Wan-Bissaka though. I think Dalot's a brilliant player. I think he understands Ten Hag's system better out of the two. The underlapping runs that Dalot has are really, really good for the system. I've seen him pair up, you know, show up on the left wing at times in games as well. Just the way that he understands. He's allowed to be in these spaces and attack these spaces and cause overloads in certain phases of the game. Just shows that he's really a good player. But I think Wan-Bissaka defensively against top teams, you know, the PSGs of this world, the Bayern Munichs of this world, you need a Wan-Bissaka on your side.
I want to hear what everyone's opinion is on that. So please drop it below in the comment section below. Who would you prefer, if you would prefer either of them? Even would you rather get rid of both of them and get another backup fullback? Let us know what your thoughts are on that. But going on to talk about, you know, positions in the team, let's talk about our midfielders, because I think I can't talk about the last two games without talking about Bruno Fernandes. For someone who I've been critical of him, I haven't hated him, but I've been critical of him, some of his flaws. he's always been this season a scapegoat, I think, for
Yes,
fans.
yes.
It seems like he's found his new position. One thing I like about Bruno Fernandes is that, and I said this in my fan view, is that he's one of the few players in our team that plays across multiple positions.
Yeah.
He plays right wing, he plays 10, he plays 6, he plays 8. And I think in that 8 position where he played against Everton and Brentford, I've been so impressed. And I think that could be his position going forward for the rest of the season, especially like Eriksen being eased back into the team. I think he's become more disciplined when he plays in that more central role. I think defensively he's more disciplined. Going forward he's more disciplined. He's more tidier with the ball. There's no more kick and hope and all of that kind of stuff. And I feel like his man of the match performance on the weekend, for me, has started to raise some questions about where is his best role in this team.
Yes, I'm smiling, man, because the way you put it is exactly right. I think he's been fantastic the last 2 games in particular. Some would say that potentially, they're 2 lesser sides. They're not the top 6, the top 8 sides. But Bruno Fernandes right now is just playing amazing football in that 8 position. I think, you put maybe a Casemiro next to him, and you've got, the basis of, a good, solid 8 and a really good, a world-class 6 in Casemiro. But I think just Bruno right now as the 8, he's not rushing that forward line pass. I think he sees the forward pass quicker than anyone else in the team. I think Eriksen has, when Eriksen does it, because we saw a little cameo from Eriksen against Everton, when he went into that 6/8 position, it was beautiful. The way that he's spraying the passes, the tempo, the way he can control the game is a little bit different to Bruno's rush kind of side to his game, where he wants to force to put the ball beyond the lines. But because Bruno sees that, there's so much more transitions happening from that position, because it's got a little bit more time to play for him, and there's players running on behind the defensive line, like Rashford, like Anthony, and you could see in that game against Everton, plenty of balls, plenty of space, especially on the wide areas against teams, and Bruno sees that pass, I think, quicker than anyone else. Really, really happy with that performance the last 2 games, especially the Everton one. The Brentford one was a little bit tricky, but he was the standout player in a poor game, I think, overall, or a challenging game overall for both sides. But he was the key factor in that game, and I think long term, I would like to see him in that position.
It's interesting because we haven't even seen his best performances there coming from a partnership with Casemiro.
Yeah.
So I feel like with talking about like midfield resurgence, Casemiro is going to be back for these Premier League games. For the Sevilla game coming up, and we're going to preview it, I hope if Bruno or Casemiro gets booked, they're out of the second leg.
Is it?
So I hope that they both play responsibly, and they will go into that game again knowing that. But you never know what you're going to get in a game where we're playing against a Spanish team.
Exactly.
Like, you never know what you're getting from the refs. But I'm really excited to see if, like with the Sevilla game, if Bruno plays in that position with Casemiro alongside him, because we haven't had that opportunity to see that dynamic. And I feel like Eriksen coming off the bench will give us that extra creativity off the bench. You know, when it's a 1-1 or it's a 0-0 or you're losing 1-0 and you need to create something, I feel like having Eriksen coming off the bench is just that better advantage than, in comparison, having Eriksen start there and maybe moving Bruno like the 70th minute when Eriksen goes off. So I still feel like there's so much to be experienced with that midfield, but I feel like Bruno Fernandes, we have to give him his flowers where it's due, because I feel like this season, since he's come into firstly Manchester United, more than 100 goal involvements. In less, it was 153 games that he had and 100 goal involvements. So that's goals and assists. You don't get that by chance. You don't get that by luck. And it's crazy to think he only won his first trophy with us in the Carabao Cup. Because I feel like he's been a part of a successful United era of recent, but that hasn't been the case. And I feel like it'll be interesting to see, because like he's a captain, he's a leader, he's this moany guy that frustrates people. He's apparently a lot of opposition players irritated when they come up against Bruno Fernandes. And I feel like the more tidy and disciplined he gets, and I had this debate with KG, I remember a couple months back, where I asked him if he feels like Bruno needs to change his ways to become more reliable. Like, does he need to become more tidy on the ball, more disciplined? And I said to him, he will only flourish in United and under Ten Hag if if he changes his ways, if he becomes more disciplined with the ball, off the ball, more responsible, more, take care of the ball when you've got the ball. Don't try to force stuff.
Yeah.
KG didn't agree with me, but I hope he now agrees with me after this weekend.
He has to.
I hope he agrees with me. But one thing I do think is interesting is that midfield. Do you think that Ten Hag is changing the structure of how players play to accommodate Jadon Sancho?
Oh, I mean, it was really interesting to see Jadon Sancho's performance against Everton. It was really good. A key performer in the game. Really, his ability to pass the ball through the lines is really good. He does it in an unorthodox way because it's kind of, he's kind of hiding or trying to hide the fact that he's trying to make the pass, or he's sneaking the pass through the lines. He's not trying to beat players and be free of his marker. He's sneaking passes through the lines, clever slide passes, disguise all the time, clever passes. But I don't think it's really him that's making a big impact on the structure of the team, or if it's, I don't think Ten Hag's using him as somebody to compromise or work around. I think it's more Rashford maybe at the moment. The situation with Weghorst, who can play in the 10, who can play in the forward line right now. Obviously, Casemiro, a key player. If he's out, how do you balance out that midfield? 2 questions though for you. What position would you think Bruno Fernandes would be best suited in terms of the 8 or the 10? And then in terms of Weghorst, should he be kept on with us? I'm seeing reports of, obviously, he's surplus to requirements and he's already been told so. And for me, I don't think that's a good idea. I think we should have kept him hungry, kept him, at least he should have got told that come towards the end of the season. Because I'm not saying he should be part of the team next season. I don't mind. I think he's a fantastic player. We've seen how effective Marcel is in terms of scoring goals. Marcel just came on and scored. Whereas Wout's been playing how many games, running around like a headless chicken and still hasn't been able to convert an opportunity. But the work rate that he puts in, it's just on a different level.
Oh, that's it's an interesting one. Because when he came in the first month or 2, I was very much like, give him a chance. But I've seen how we play without him. And that's how the United I like to watch.
Difficult, harsh, but when you're seeing that,
we get more done with when he's not on the pitch.
Yeah, he doesn't win any headers. He's not winning any bring downs.
And I feel like a lot of this rides on Marcel's ability to stay fit. Like I feel like if Marcel can stay fit, we do not need Weghorst's services. And even that is a bit harsh because Marcel will be, I think, if we sign someone in the summer, Marcel will be the second option.
Yes.
But I don't mind Marcel being the second option if he's not fit 24/7. If he's keeping fit and, like you said, coming off the bench and immediate impact, if he's doing that, I'm happy with that because I know we're not getting that with Weghorst. Yeah. Weghorst comes off the bench and there's no, I feel like we play slower because our forward line is slower. When Rashford is playing up top, and even though we got Anthony, Sancho, whatnot, they are still a lot quicker than what Weghorst is. Yeah. And we talk about the work rate, the Weghorst work rate, but I feel like if Anthony adds that 10 or 20% extra on the front foot, pressing the fullback, pressing the centre back, is Weghorst's work rate really missed? I don't think so.
And you know what? I think you're right. I don't think, because at the beginning of the season, everyone was out for Marcel. You're not running enough. You're not pressing enough. And now we've almost got the opposite. Someone that presses too much, but still hasn't got that effectiveness.
I feel like it depends on the game that we're playing and the tactics. Yeah. You know what Marcel offers you. Like a fit Marcel is offering you that pressing. Yeah. He's shutting off passing lanes to the defensive midfielders, so you have to play out from the back in a team where your centre backs are a bit shaky. That's opportunity to pounce, and we saw it. I think it was. I might be wrong. I want to say it was the Man City game. I might be wrong. The derby that we beat them. Yeah. I might be wrong. Please, guys, forgive me if I'm wrong because I just broke my fast, so my brain's still a bit over the place. But it was that game where he was shutting off that channel to Rodri in the first half that kind of made Pep change up his tactics a little bit. I'm pretty sure it was that game. And you know what you're getting with him in that instance. Weghorst is not that guy. Like, I don't want to say it in a rude way, but he's not that guy. And there's like United choosing not to extend. It's better to let him know that from early, because you're saying keep him hungry, but brother's starving and he ain't even scoring. So what then? He's been starving and he ain't scoring.
Yeah.
So what then? It's better for him to know that there's no future at the club for him, rather than we have a situation like Ighalo. Do you remember? We had him 6 months, didn't sign a striker, kept him on. For what reason? I don't know. I would much rather that.
Okay, so and then on Bruno, what do you think his best position is, 8 or 10?
I think it's the 8, but when I say the 8, it's like I'm making up a position, but it's like that 8 half space between the winger and the 10. I'm making up a position, that it's a bit more
right
forward.
Attacking mid.
It's right attacking mid. It's a bit more forward. Still has defensive duties, but when you've got a CDM that can cover you, you are able to...
Right centre mid.
It's not right centre mid, guys. I've just made up my own position, but it's basically an 8 in the half space.
Mazzella. It's called a Mazzella.
Is it a Mazzella? It's the 8 that's in the half space between the 10 and the winger. So it's like here,
to the
right
winger's
here,
or to
and
the
the 10 is here, and you're just like, you're operating in that space. And we saw him quite a lot there in the Everton game, because he was also defensively getting back so much that he was in our third, he was supporting the fullback. And that's basically that position. And I feel like when we see him play with Casemiro in that position, then we'll truly know if that partnership would work. Because if it does, that 10 spot is open for all. It's up for grabs. Sancho, Kobe Mainoo, Anthony, Amad Diallo, all of them, it's up for grabs.
Do you think that's better for us as well? I think for me, for some reason, man, I think Bruno's evolution, especially in this Ten Hag side, and you made a really good point before in that, I think Bruno will be successful under Ten Hag, and I think that's the only way. I don't think in any other team they'll be able to get that level out of him, especially his style of game. A possession-heavy base possession team is going to completely change his game. You know, a team that wants to play maybe a bit more on the defensive counter-attacking style, they're going to want to overuse his counter-attacking, long passing, breaking the line, transitional style play. Whereas Ten Hag kind of requires a bit of a mix and match, and also wants Bruno to offer his proactiveness and his running around. So it's a bit of a blend of everything. Do you think that Bruno now, you know, towards the end of Ten Hag's evolution with this side, he ends up in the 8, or would he always have this 10 spot? I don't think he will have a cemented position. I feel like the good thing about a player like Bruno is they can alternate. Yeah. And that is a big, I think, benefit for the manager, because you can be like, okay, today I'm going to play you in the 10 because of X, Y, Z. Then next game he's like, oh, today I'm going to play you a bit deeper. And if you have a player that's able to play across those different positions, then you are a very lucky man, because it's basically like a key that opens 3 different doors. You're lucky. And I think in that instance, Ten Hag will be lucky, but also it will demand more from the person in the 10, because Bruno can play in that 8, but we know he can play in that 10. He can play on the right wing. Like, he isn't the greatest winger, but he is able to play that. And we play a lot more compact when he plays on the right wing, because he's not a pacey winger that runs up and down the line. And I like it when he plays on the right wing. Is very similar to if you watch Amad Diallo this season at Sunderland. Amad Diallo is not the quickest winger, but he operates that half space between the 10 and the winger, and he gets in so well. And that's why I feel like someone like Amad Diallo, I feel like if he comes back in the summer, that spot is up for grabs, and he could actually grab that 10 spot, because imagine him with a player like Anthony. Anthony is good in possession. He's good at passing. He's good with his feet. A player like him, Amad Diallo in the 10, Bruno Fernandes behind him, that is a lot of one-touch football and movement between the 3 of them. Defenders won't be able to keep up with that. Midfielders won't be able to keep up with that. And that's one thing, like, shout out to Amad, he's doing his thing at Sunderland. But that 10 position, that's why someone like Jadon Sancho, when he performed the way he did on the weekend, I was happy for him, because I feel like that is the next... Everyone was talking about right wing up for grabs. I think that 10 is the spot that's up for grabs. Because Bruno is able to play in so many different positions, he doesn't need to have a cemented spot. Yes.
Because Ten Hag can be like, you play 8, you play 10, you play right wing, whatever.
Similar story then for Eriksen, someone else that has shown, he's gone a bit in reverse then, was always touted as a 10/8 and now is kind of playing the 6/8 roles in those half spaces, in the support areas or the right defensive mid pockets, connecting.
I'd rather see Eriksen more forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd rather see him more forward. Every time I think about him doing defensive duties, I just think about that Saka goal at the Emirates. So I'd rather see him a bit more forward, and I think it would be better for him. I think when he came on, even on the weekend, in the second half, it took us quite some time to kind of solidify our possession in the second half. And when he came on, I feel like we looked a lot more fluid with him on the ball. So it will be interesting to see. But talking about upcoming games, we do have Sevilla tomorrow. Then we got Nottingham Forest, who are fighting relegation. You said to me off camera you were a bit worried about the Sevilla game.
Yeah, honestly, man, I'm shaking because Sevilla, we never play well against them. I think we've played maybe 4 or 5 times, if I can remember off the top of my head, and we maybe have won once. I can only remember maybe winning once against Sevilla.
They sacked their manager. They hired a manager last summer, sacked him.
Yeah.
This new manager has been in the job since the 21st of March 2023. I know people always talk about new manager bounce and all of that stuff, but Sevilla are a team that are actually struggling in the league this year.
I just looked at their last few results, maybe a couple days ago or so. I think it's a 1 win or a 1 draw, 3 losses. In the Europa League against Fenerbahce, it's only their home game that they won. Their away game against Fenerbahce, they lost. So they're not really strong vein of form right now, you're right. But I don't know, it's just the Spanish teams, man, just scare me, just worries me.
But we've knocked out, we beat bar Real Sociedad that we lost the opening game to. We've beaten every other Spanish team. We beat Real Sociedad in the second fixture in the group stages. We beat Betis. We beat Barca. Like, why are we still scared of Spanish teams?
Errors are meant to be come to an error. Errors come to an end, sorry. Come to an error.
Word to Ten Hag.
Word to Ten Hag. So I agree with you. It's just, I don't know, there's just something for me. And I thought I would see it against Everton. But then again, like, just the mentality, the way we're playing is so refreshing against Everton. So hopefully there's a change of mentality. And I was always worried about a little bit of fatigue settling in. But all of these things don't seem to be a thing when you're winning games and when you're playing well and the games keep coming. So on the other side of things, I usually like to be positive. I do believe that at home we will get the result, but over 2 legs, can we beat them? A lot of things are in our favour, but we've had poor results against Spanish teams in the past. Bro,
you're saying that we've had poor results against Spanish teams in the past, but just please look at this year. Just look at this season. Every time we came up against Spanish teams, people were saying the same. I was hearing the same stuff. You were saying the same stuff. When we got Barcelona, when we got Betis, you were saying the same thing. But I'm like, how can you still be saying that when we've beaten all the Spanish teams that have come our way?
Trauma.
Like, we beat the top dogs, the La Liga number 1s, Barcelona. Yeah. We went and bossed them on their own turf.
Yes, yeah.
Then we brought them back to ours and then we beat them.
Yeah.
Betis, we beat them.
Yeah.
Why are we still fearful of a Spanish team and I'm not being big head, like, I'm not saying we're better than them, blah, 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 but we're Man United. We should not be fearing a team that are struggling this season, given the fact that we beat the better Spanish teams.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's just something within me. And I mean, this is their competition as well. There's something about that as well, man. The Europa League is Sevilla's competition. I think they've won it close to one of the most amount of times.
Marcel was there on loan, so hopefully he knows something about their tactics.
Yeah, that's a good shot.
Because he struggled there on his loan spell. Yeah. What about, for me, the Nottingham Forest fixture is, again, an interesting fixture, because it's always interesting when you come up against the teams that are fighting relegation, because they are fighting for their life, essentially. This is a team that spent the most money out of the bottom table teams. They brought in the most number of players, They brought in like 24 players in the summer transfer window. They brought in 22 and then they brought in 4. They brought in Bear. I forgot Serge Aurier plays there. I actually forgot. And I feel like if you're talking about a team that have something to prove, it's normally the relegation teams, which is why the Everton game I was nervous, not nervous, but a bit skeptical about how it would turn out. But again, this team, they've got something to prove. The manager has something to prove. He's fighting for his life. Yeah, he is. Yeah. And the owner, I don't know if you know much about the Nottingham Forest owner.
Nah, I don't know.
Greek guy.
Yeah.
Got crazy connections. He's Google him. If anybody doesn't know him, Google the Nottingham Forest owner and just read the stories about him on Google, about his connections to his Greek heritage, and he used to own a team in that side of the world, and had it's a madness. But he's also got something to prove because he's invested a lot of money into the team for them to do well in their first season back up here. So it will be interesting. Obviously, what I'm worried about is how we perform away from home in the Premier League.
Good, and that's a good point, because this whole season, I think if there's one part of the season that you'd look at in terms of improvements for next season, and just in general, Ten Hag's criticisms of this season and his team, it would be the away form. We perform really well, really solid, really consistently at home, but then when it comes to away, against all sorts of teams, we're just not proven that we're able to play under the opposition's kind of under the crowd. What I would say though is we've played Nottingham Forest a few times this season. A couple times in the cup, a couple times in the league. We've played them quite a few times, so we'll know what they're about. I
think we're going to beat them.
Yeah.
I say 3-0.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how they set up, especially for us coming off a midweek game as well.
We've got a lot of that, and we've got a lot of that, man. We've got a lot of that, playing in the midweek, then playing in the weekend.
I think it's pretty much the rest of the season. But it's crazy because it's been like that since the World Cup ended.
Yeah.
I feel like I can't remember a time where I watched Man United on a Sunday, then I watched them again the following Saturday.
Yeah. Also,
I can't remember a time this season that it was like that.
Yeah, same. And sometimes I'm getting confused with games. Like months
sometimes I'm forgetting midweek games. Like I didn't even know it was Champions League week this week because I genuinely just I was thinking to Nottingham Forest game. Then I was like, oh, we're playing Sevilla in midweek. Oh my god! And it's so many games, and Ten Hag has spoken about it, and we're going to touch on this in the next segment. But the run of games is starting to impact our players because we're seeing people like Marcus Rashford going down and it's funny because Ten Hag said it in the press conference, and I'm glad he's addressing it because other managers in the past have been able to address it and no one bats an eyelid. And I'm glad that Ten Hag has addressed it because he was like, they're playing basically every 3 days. In what league is that acceptable to be playing every 3 days for about 5-6 months straight? How is that even possible?
Yeah, I don't understand how the schedules got like this, and we haven't been able to at least extend the season maybe a couple of weeks or a month longer.
And I saw a report today that said if United get to the FA Cup final, then I think there's no day available to reschedule our fixture against Chelsea because it's already been rescheduled because of the FA Cup game against Brighton. And then if we get to the final, that would have been the week that it was going to be rescheduled to, but they can't do that again, so they need to find somewhere else. So we might be playing like the last week of, and then if we get Europa League, if we get to the Europa League final, there's obviously the semis, so we've got 2 more games for that, and then the final, which is probably going to be will probably be way after the Premier League ends. Or before that. It'll be the week after. It'll be the week after the Premier League ends. But then, where are we going to fit in that Chelsea fixture between?
Wow, I just can't believe the demand that, and to think that Bruno has played almost every single game, like every single.
That's what I'm saying. Give him his flowers. Yeah. Give him his flowers because you always say it. Yeah. The best availability.
The best ability is availability.
There you go. And this guy's available all the time, even after international duty. This is came off that World Cup. He went with Portugal. Yeah. A lot of players who came back from the World, he went straight back into the lineup. Yeah. When he came back from the World Cup. Yeah. Shout out to Bruno. Man.
Unbelievable, man. And for me, I think when we're talking about the Forest fixture in particular as well, I think it's important for us to win this game. Just in terms of consistency of
we can't
points.
Afford to drop points.
We can't afford to drop points now. I mean, we've got our rivals playing, and I would really like to see how many more top fixtures against the top 6 sides there are for us this season. I think we've still got Tottenham to come, and we've still got Chelsea to come, but we need to make sure that we're winning games against our rivals now. They've gonna have a couple head-to-head games coming up against each other.
When you say our rivals, specify who are you talking about?
Oh, Spurs, okay. And definitely not Liverpool and not Liverpool, definitely not Arsenal and City.
Okay, cool. Just making sure that casket is closed.
Yeah, nah, definitely. It will be Spurs, Newcastle right now for sure. I'm still looking at Chelsea if they have some sort of hope. We've got
Chelsea, they're like 13th, I swear.
Yeah, but our game against
they got like 39 points.
Yeah, but our game against them. I'm talking about
we could pick something up from them.
Yeah, we need
Frank Lampard.
We need to squash every single last hope out of them. We need to let them know that there is no messing about in that game. We can't. It's at home.
No, it's funny because you're saying that we need to squash all the hope out of them, but their hope is gone for the season. They ain't got no hope.
It's like, what?
They're closer to the relegation zone than they are to us.
Well, to be honest with you, I still have friends that believe that Chelsea. I still have Chelsea fans that I know personally that think that they will be hunting, and it's possible, numerically possible, still to reach that.
Yeah, I've seen hypotheticals like, if they win this many games and this team loses this many games, then they can. But to me, that's if buts and maybes.
Yeah, I know, but it's just against the top. It's the bigger sides. Away from home this season, that was maybe our best game, the Chelsea game. I think it was a 1-1.
That was a great game. It was the Casemiro header. At Stamford Bridge.
That
was a good game.
Draw, 1-1. But we now at home now, we need to go and make sure that we brush them. It's important to do that against all the top 6 sides for me for the remaining Premier League games of the season.
It's not a red room, guys, if Marcel doesn't have a question. Because he comes with questions.
Yes,
he comes with questions. Every week he says to me, Mina, I got a question.
Yes.
So I'm going to wait for you to ask me your question because I know you got a question.
Okay, no, I appreciate you. So the question is this week, and I believe one day we'll hopefully be able to get a legendary Man United striker, to talk about it. But it's about that forward line. And the question to you would be, what would your forward line be for next season? If you had any kind of pick, and it should be really, when I talk about the forward line or the front line, I should really say the 3 starting. But I want the 6 in a squad. I believe that, as a team, you should have a 6-man squad of forward players to choose from every game. So going into next season, who would be your front line, your front 6 players?
Is it me being realistic or me being optimistic or me being delusional?
I like a bit of delusion.
Because delusion can be like what Flex and KG are doing in the FIFA show, where they just buy everyone. They just buy everyone and they're benching the maddest players.
I know these, ballers.
Literally, it's the funniest thing ever. If you ain't watched it, make sure you guys watch it because they're just on some Todd Bowley setting. But if I'm being realistic, in the hopes that, the ownership stuff is finished, we get in a new owner, whoever it is, I would like Rashford to be part of it.
Yeah.
I would like Martial to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I would like Anthony to be a part of it.
Yeah.
Everything else, Jadon Sancho, I think, I won't say he's walking on eggshells, but I feel like this is a decisive moment of his Manchester United career. He's
still a squad player. He's
still a squad player. Yeah. For me, he's still a squad player, but I feel like the next 2 months or month and a half is quite decisive for his future at Manchester United, because if Manchester United then go and choose to go into the market for a 10, then it's like, okay, well, he's now 2nd, 3rd in the pecking order on left wing or right wing when we've got Garnacho, Pellistri might be going out on loan, Elanga might be going out on loan. So there's a lot of ifs in that department. But I want Osimhen to be leading our front line next season. And I've said this so many times. If there's a 9 that I want us to go out and buy, I love Harry Kane. I think he's a great striker, but I think we do not need that extra ability that he gives us, which is his ability to drop deep and create chances. Yeah. It could work, hypothetically speaking. Rooney did it. Yeah. He managed to do it. It could work with the likes of Marcus Rashford, Anthony Martial running in through the back lines. It could, but I just want a number 9 that's going to score goals, stay in the box, and just score goals, whether it's headers, whether left foot strike, right foot strike. I want a 9 that is causing problems for centre-backs. I would literally, like, Ruud van Nistelrooy, centre-backs used to be shook of him because he was a nuisance in that 6-yard box. I want, and Osimhen, for me, he fits that mold. He fits that mold. My only concern is his injury record over the last 4-ish seasons, the number of games he misses, and it's always reoccurring injuries. It's not new injuries. It's always reoccurring injuries. But there's so much, again, that weighs on that. If Napoli win the double this year, they are slapping a 200 million price tag on him. They are putting 200 million price tag. Whatever they win, if they win the league,
Yeah.
120 minimum. Champions League, and they've got an interesting run in the Champions League.
Is he worth that price? Is he worth that?
Yes, because you're buying. I
100?
think you're buying the final product. What he is this season, he's I think 4th in terms of the number of goals in the league across the top 5 leagues.
Wow, yeah.
And when people talk about most in form, it was Marcus Rashford at one point.
Yeah,
but it was literally Rashford, Mbappe, Osimhen. It was them 3. And I think you're buying the final product, but also you're buying the longevity. He's a young guy. He's not in his 30s. You're getting at least 4-5 years good football out of him before he starts to decline. Then another thing that for me is the reason why we need a Martial fit is because Osimhen is Nigerian. Yeah? Shout out to my Nigerians. Shout out to my West Africans. Shout out to my Africans. Shout out to everyone in the world. Shout out to all of you guys. Osimhen is Nigerian.
Yeah.
AFCON happens in the middle of the season. Yeah, if he's going away for AFCON, which I support him, I want him to go and represent his national team, we need a number 9, a backup number 9. Which is why, to me, Weghorst doesn't work.
Yeah.
He don't work.
He doesn't cut it. No.
So Martial, for me, has to be fit. And that's why I say I want Martial to be a part of it. But if you're talking to me about in the transfer window, what's the future of our front line, I want a number 9 that's going to score goals. And if we ain't getting Osimhen, I wouldn't mind Gonzalo Ramos. I wouldn't mind that. He offers something different to Osimhen. Still similar in terms of a number 9. He's actually quite different to his teammate that he was playing with. What's his name? Darwin Núñez.
Yeah.
He was playing with Darwin Núñez. He was playing second striker, so he has that ability to play in that. But when he's playing as a 9 this season, he's playing pretty well. And also, him and Bruno. They got that
Portuguese.
They got that understanding. So I'm hoping that who would you? I don't know why I'm asking this, but who would you want?
No, it's a great point that you make in terms of the type of striker that Osimhen is and Gonzalo Ramos is. They're a little bit different from Harry Kane's in terms of they haven't got that prowess in terms of dropping deep. And the point that you make about Tony Marshall still being on side for next season, I think that's very important. You know, I've been a firm believer in that for a little while now. Even though, you know, previously I've said, you know, season's gone, he's not a number 9 for us. He shouldn't be our main number 9, Martial. He doesn't score 20 to 25. Victor Osimhen, I think, can. Harry Kane, I definitely think and believe can. So those are the 2 strikers that you want as a Manchester United number 9, firstly. Do I think Harry Kane's skill set is surplus to requirements or is not necessarily needed at Man United? I would disagree with that, you know. I think, you know, Tony Marshall has the basis of what Harry Kane's skill set is. It's just that Harry Kane is maybe, for me, operating at that skill set at a high level. You know, he can also break lines. He's not fast, but his timing of runs are good. Better shooter than Martial, picks up better areas, the heading. His all-round game's a lot better, but he still has that glue kind of thing. Everyone's been saying Anthony Martial's the glue to a team. I think Harry Kane's got that ability in abundance as well. Not so much Gonzalo Ramos, not so much Victor Osimhen, and we don't know what Ten Hag's main kind of number 9 is. I've seen him use Dolberg before, Huntelaar. What's the guy that's at Dortmund now? Haller as well. So there's different types there. There's a type similar to Victor Osimhen there, and there's a type there similar to Harry Kane in terms of connecting the play. So I think I would obviously say Harry Kane. It just makes perfect sense for me.
That's why I said there's no point asking.
Yeah,
because I knew you were going to say it.
It makes perfect sense, man. For me, if we get Harry Kane, we're definitely in a shout for a Premier League title within the years that he's there, and we're in the shout for a Champions League title.
So is that your way of saying if we get Osimhen, Ramos, whoever we get, we wouldn't be immediately in a title race?
That's correct, yeah. I think that's perfectly said. That you just articulated it better for myself. I asked you a question. Innit? I didn't articulate anything for you. I asked you a question just because I think that's blasphemous. Because in my head I was thinking, there's no way he's saying Harry Kane is the difference between a title running team and not one. Yeah, I genuinely think.
But let me ask you a question then, because if we buy Osimhen, for example, he'll be coming off winning a league title in Italy.
Yeah, and playing.
Wouldn't he be bringing that experience of a title contending team? Yeah,
yes. Maybe so, and it's naive for me to say this. Maybe Italian league is the first thing that I would look to as well. Different competition. He's not competing against 6 teams for the title, that feel like they have to divine right for the title every game week. Hasn't played in the Premier League, especially compared to Harry Kane. I think Harry Kane knows the job required, when he comes and trains Man United. Osimhen is a different ball game, 75,000 at Old Trafford. How many times has he played under that kind of environment, that kind of scrutiny? Harry Kane, every single game has to deliver under those conditions. So I just think mentally as well, that side of things, he's got a little bit of an edge. That's the honestly,
you know what, yeah? I'm at a stage now in my journey with United View. Nothing you say surprises me anymore. Like, if this was me like 6 months ago, I would have been like, bro, you're this, you're that, you're... I hear it. Yeah. I hear it. It's your opinion, obviously.
Thank you.
I don't fully agree with you.
Yeah, of course.
And I think it's a bit wild, some of the things that you say.
No,
but I want one thing that I'm interested, because we've been linked to Mohamed Kudus from Ajax, yeah? And he's got that, he can play in that 10. He plays there sometimes for Ghana, plays there sometimes for Ajax, plays in that second striker role sometimes. Do you think that is a profile or the type of player that, if we have a 9, whatever is Harry Kane, whatever striker we have, and a Rashford and a Anthony, would he basically kick the likes of Sancho out of that front line?
Yeah, Mohamed Kudus, I think, is a really talented player. I think his ball carrying ability, similar to Sancho's, is quite exciting, and he has a lot of ability. I just haven't seen him that much, though. I'll be so honest. In comparison to Sancho, I haven't seen him that much. But what I have seen, the little bits in the Champions League, 1 or 2 Dutch games, and highlights at that, he looks like he has a lot more ability than Sancho does, for me. And anybody that's willing to take on players or shows the ability, I think, to consistently be able to take on players, has a chance to get above Sancho. That role there, like that you said, is a little bit vacant, or is somebody is up for grabs in that 10. It's really interesting, Kudus can play there. Kudus can play out wide as well, and is flexible, similar to Sancho. I think Sancho can play out wide and play in the 10 as well. It's just, like you're saying, there's so many other players that are doing certain things, the proactiveness, the ability to connect the midfield and the defence or the forward line. They're doing it at a better level than Sancho's doing it right now. Bruno is doing it better. Rashford, even when he comes in the 10, he's being a bit more effective. So, what's
interesting about Rashford? I was going to say, I think in the coming years, the next few years is very important under Ten Hag. And I think a very key ingredient is Rashford. I think he's a very important part of it. He loves Marcel so much that he squared the ball to him to score. Yeah. If that was Weghorst in the Everton game, he ain't passing it to him. And I feel like everyone realised that, because there's been so many opportunities this season for him to square it to Weghorst in a position like that, or anybody else really, and he tries to go for goal instead. But him and Martial have that connection.
Do you think that's going to benefit us?
100%.
Because I see that partnership with Bruno as well.
Yeah, 100%. It will benefit. Like, look at, I'm not comparing them to the 07-08 team, but Rooney, Tevez, Ronaldo. Rooney always wanted to pass to them, Tevez, Ronaldo. They were always passing to one another. I think Rooney had the most assists out of all of them to one another, because he was always finding them. He was the less, he took the back seat in that run of that season for the greater good, and it paid off. And I think, as time evolves, Rashford, he's being built up to be this goal-scoring winger, which is what I think he is. I don't class him as a striker. I class him as a winger. But I think that he's kind of being built up to be that, and it'll be interesting to see how he kind of navigates the next few years, as we kind of, like you said, if we get Harry Kane, this time next year, I'm expecting us to be contending for a title. Yeah. If we get Harry Kane, otherwise me and you, we're going to have problems. Yeah, well, it depends on obviously the ownership and our ability to be effective in the market next season. That would obviously impact overall signings as well. But if we do get Harry Kane, I do believe we'll be effective in the market and in the league next season. Talking about Harry Kane, obviously there's now, on the ownership, there's 3rd round of bids for the club. Yes. And do you think they're longing it out? I just went, and guys, please, am I going crazy, or are they longing out this situation? I don't know. I feel like there's been a lot of pressure, obviously, to make news. People want news regarding the Glazers. People want news regarding Manchester United. So I feel like
at times there's been a little bit of a rush to get somebody wants to hear something, and some weeks it's just been there's a bid's been made. It's not been an official made, but the bid's been made. I'm just taking my time. I'm not worried at all. There's no pressure for it to be longed out or anything. The positive thing, I remember saying it to Owen in some of the January transfer windows shows that we were doing and the morning shows. I was saying to him, the positive is the Glazers are going. That's the positive. I'm not worried about when it happens, even if it takes as long as midway through the summer window. And it would be annoying and it would hold our transfers back. But the big positive is the Glazers are going. I think
the Glazers are just trying to get the most money for. That's why they said it's the third bid, but it's the final round. And obviously Sheikh Jassim and Said Jim are both through, and it's expected to be finalised, I think, on the 28th of April, which is interesting because when it was first announced, it was November that they wanted to sell the club. Obviously, I don't expect it to be that quick, but I do think the Glazers are really trying to get their value and money's worth for the club. And I saw a report recently when I think it was the English FA were bidding for the Euros, and they said that Old Trafford was not one of the stadiums used because it might be under reconstruction. That was the exact words of Manchester United. It might be under reconstruction, so they won't be able to use the stadium. That will be, again, interesting to see. But with the whole ownership thing, it's just like, the longer it takes, I'm scared it might impact the transfer window. And you've seen how a club like Chelsea, for example, new owner comes in, just runs riot in the transfer window, no transfer strategy, throwing money at anyone and everyone, trying to hijack every single deal that's going through. And I don't want that. I want the season to end, contracts finish June 30th. So the new season and the new financial year in football starts on July the 1st. So come July the 1st, I want anyone who's waiting a renewal to either be offered their renewal by then, or to have extended, or to know if they're leaving or not. And I also want to enter the round of the transfer window with owners that have a plan. And I'm hoping that, the leading runners in the bidding process right now, they don't have to wait to come in before they come up with their transfer plan. I'm hoping they've already got that because they're anticipating that they will take over the club. But in terms of talking about the transfer, I'm tired of talking. And I said this, I think last time when it was the second round, I don't want to talk about it anymore. Yeah. I just wake. I'm sleeping. Wake me up when there's new owners because I'm tired. As long as the Glazers are gone by the time that the new season starts, I think that's a success. Yeah,
we're singing at every single ground now. The message is still clear there from the fans, and we're waiting for that now. It's inevitability. I think there is a hint. I think potentially, the deal might not happen. There was a few rumours about that, but that would be crazy. I don't think that would happen.
You know what is one thing that is actually quite annoying with me, that I find quite annoying, is the way that they talk about the potential whatever owners come in. I've seen that now. This might not even be the episode to talk about it, but I've seen some clubs have been lobbying the government to basically stop any state-owned or state-backed investments into football. And their reason is because of this whole sports washing thing. But no one blinked an eyelid when the Glazers used debt to run us into the ground. Nobody blinked an eyelid. No one literally, everybody turned away. They weren't watching. And now, even with the possibility, it's not even confirmed that Qatar will win this third round, the final round, but they are threatened at the idea of unlimited money to a club like Manchester United, because you don't know what you're going to get with that. Yeah. One thing I can say is you're not going to get a Manchester City.
Yeah, and you're not going to get debt carried around for the next 10, 15 years and Ed Woodwardness in the market for the next 10, 15 years.
300k per week given to players
with no trophies, so you won't get that.
It'll be interesting. Hopefully, within the next month, this will start to wrap up quite quickly. And on that note, we're going to wrap up. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. As usual, you can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, whatever listening devices, streaming services that you guys use. Make sure you drop your comments in the below section, and one lucky person will get their comment read out on next week's episode. But as usual, it's me, Mina, Marcel, the Red Room, here on United View every week. Until next week, peace.